Buddy, welcome to the Shouldy Show, Shouldy, Shouldy Part 2 with the wonderful, magnificent, beautiful, and brilliant David Burns. No, Dr. Jill Levitt and the old Dr. David Burns.
Brilliant
the
and
old
beautiful
fart.
David Burns.
And we're just delighted to work with you, and we're going to go over today how to zap should statements. We'll give a brief summary of last week's show, which Jill will brilliantly start us off on.
So welcome, everyone. Last week, we started to cover kind of what are should statements, why are should statements distorted. We talked about self-directed shoulds. We talked about other directed shoulds. We talked about hidden shoulds, like, when you say the world is unfair and you're actually saying things shouldn't be the way that they are. And we talked a little bit about the history of should statements. And then I think we just kind of started to scratch the surface on how to challenge and change should statements. We talked a little bit about positive reframing, right? Looking at sort of what are the benefits of telling yourself I should be better, and also what does it show about you that's really kind of positive and beautiful. What does it show about your values? And we even went so far as to talking a little bit, David, you and I both gave examples of times where we use the semantic technique and the be specific technique, which we'll probably go over again today, to work on our own should statements.
Absolutely. And also welcome to Bernie Bilecki from the East Coast, our most wonderful and admired colleague, friend, and fan, and the beautiful and brilliant Lisa Kelly, who makes all of this good stuff happen. Hi, Lisa. And we've got Marla and Lael, and we've got Sean and Mark and Bashkar Mukherjee. And so welcome everyone who's watching. One quick thing before we dive in to how to zap our own should statements. What's the difference now, Jill, between healthy should statements and unhealthy should statements? Should we always get rid of our should statements, or is it okay sometimes to have should statements?
Right. Well, we talked last week about how there are certain shoulds that I can't remember how you worded it, David, but that are real shoulds, like, for example, following the law, right? The actual legal shoulds are like I shouldn't speed because I will get a ticket, right? We talked about the legal shoulds. We talked about kind of the laws of the universe shoulds, like if I drop this pencil, it should fall because it will fall because of the laws of gravity. And we talked about some moral kind of ethical shoulds, right? And we kind of made the distinction between thinking that these might be healthy shoulds. In other words, they really do kind of exist as laws, black and white. Whereas when we tell ourselves things like I should be a better mother, or I should be as great of a therapist as David, these are not actual laws. Like, it doesn't say anywhere the type of mother I'm supposed to be, or that all mothers, don't make any mistakes. And that those are the sort of unhealthy shoulds that make us feel, badly about ourselves or angry with others.
Right. And you see a lot of shoulds going on in the world. Lisa Kelly has advised me to avoid political issues one way or the other because people get so fired up. But in the realm of politics, you see a lot of shoulds, people direct should at each other. You shouldn't think that way, and you shouldn't have this or that idea, you shouldn't support abortion, or you shouldn't be against abortion, or whatever. And we're not trying to change the world here. Our role is not evangelists, but therapists. And so our role is to help people who come to us with problems that they want help with, either relationship problems or emotional problems like depression, anxiety, guilt, shame, and so forth. That one of the reasons for that problem would be using unhealthy shoulds. Now, let's take a quick example from the woman who got us started on the show. Was her name Hillary?
That doesn't sound right to me.
There's another woman named Hillary who sent me some good relationship questions we can address on a future show. But I can't remember her name, but it was awesome. And I don't have my notes from last week in
I
front
might
of
be
me
able to
here.
pull it up. But
But
did you want to paraphrase it, or is
yeah.
that
She was saying that she was getting hung up with should statements. She was judging others with should statements and judging herself. And one of her should statements was, "I should not judge people who make racist, sexist, or gay bashing comments. I should try to have empathy for them. I should not dislike them." Now those are some classic should statements. Now the first thing you always want to do, anytime you have a should statement or any negative thought that's upsetting you, is do a little bit of positive reframing. That's one of the many breakthroughs in team therapy, as opposed to conventional CBT, as well as most other forms of therapy, is to see, because resistance to change is very strong. And some of the strongest resistance in the world is the resistance to giving up should statements. And so one way to melt away the resistance is to take a look at what the should statements say about you that's beautiful and awesome. Now, let's take the woman who said, "I should not judge people who make racist, sexist, or gay bashing comments. And I should not dislike them. I should have more empathy for them." Now, before we show her how to smash these should statements and free herself from the trap she's got herself in, what, Jill, do these should statements show about her that's positive and awesome? On the one hand, that's one of the two resistance melting or positive reframing techniques. And the other one is, what are some benefits to her in telling her giving herself these should statements? Those are two distinct forms of positive things about these negative should statements that are so upsetting to her. What do you think, Jill?
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer it. And I'll also encourage the audience to go ahead and write your thoughts in the chat box. And I'll give it a go, and then we'll kind of take a look at the chat box and see what you guys have to contribute. So remember, she's telling herself, "I shouldn't judge other people who are racist and sexist." And so when she tells herself that she shouldn't judge people, she basically, what it shows about her is that she really values and wants to be non-judgmental, that she, cares about being kind of tolerant and understanding and empathic.
That sounds something genuinely beautiful about her. We can kind of take turns on this.
Yep.
Another thing, good thing about making these kind of should statements to herself and feeling some guilt and shame and anxiety is it keeps her on her toes. It's really easy for all of us to be insensitive from time to time. And I sent out a memo, for example, to the group on why it's so hard to learn team therapy, and then Jacob Towery added to it. Then I've added more to it. I'm real excited about it. But one of the hikers today pointed out that some of my tone there was a little bit negative, and that like it sounds like a put down to therapists are so codependent, so narcissistic, and compulsively try to help and things like that. And so it's easy for parts of our personalities or selves or to leak out that could be hurtful to others. And so if you give yourself some of these should statements, it keeps you on your toes and reminds you to focus on being insensitive. And I think almost all human beings have the capacity to be kind of irritating and annoying at times, and for the dark side of our personality to come out. What are some other benefits?
Sorry, you were saying it, and so then when we beat up on ourselves about being, let's say, irritating or annoying, or in this case, kind of intolerant and judgy, it kind of keeps us on our toes and reminds us how we really want to be, right? It's kind of when we're self-critical like that, then it kind of shows something really beautiful about us.
And if you feel some anxiety, guilt, and shame, that too shows something beautiful about you, and it helps you keep moving in a positive direction.
Right. Absolutely. It looks like someone wrote, David, very much in line. Sean Stiller wrote, it says that she's tolerant and open-minded, that she has high ethical standards. So that's
Yes.
spot on, just what we're talking about.
That's another great thing about this woman. Yes, that she has a moral compass and
Yep.
high ethical standards. And so we could add to this list, but we want to keep the positive reframing
Yep.
a little on the short side today. And then after that, we would say to her, given all these beautiful things about you, that these should statements, these so-called negative thoughts show about you, why in the world would you want to change?
Right.
And then she might say what, Jill?
Well, because I don't want to feel guilty and bad and ashamed. I would like to be able to be less judgmental of other people, but I don't think that I need to like rake myself over the coals or feel as down and ashamed and guilty as I feel.
Right. Right. And then that sounds good. That sounds good to me. And then you've done your positive reframing, you've melted away the resistance, and then you're going to have much better luck helping that person change their negative thoughts. And I did this on the hike today. I can't remember what the problem was, but somebody had this, very negative thought and was all hopelessly stuck. And then I did positive reframing, and suddenly she found an almost instant solution to the thing that was bugging her.
Right.
But if I had tried to help her out before doing the positive reframing, we would have ended up yes butting.
Absolutely, right. And so it's causing it for me. If this were me, it would serve two functions for me. One is that I would feel kind of proud of my symptoms. Like I'd be like, yeah, I guess that's true. I do beat myself up, but when I beat myself up, it's showing that I really care about not being a judgmental person, which is really true. And so then I could feel kind of happy about the fact that I'm making myself feel bad. Right. And then also it puts me in the position of arguing again, sort of against you for change rather than you being like, Jill, you really need to let yourself off the hook. You're being too hard on yourself. And then I might be like, no, but really I am too judgmental. Instead, it puts me in the position of kind of saying, hey, I really want to let this go. I want to let myself off the hook. I want to be kinder.
Yeah, the paradox is we're going to sell this woman on how great it is to be judgmental.
Right.
And that will paradoxically make it easier for her to give up all of these judgmental thoughts directed at others and directed at herself. Now let's talk about the somatic technique plus externalization of voices. We can perhaps combine these techniques.
Okay. Well, I can define very quickly the semantic technique we talked about last week as well, but it's actually very useful. It's the idea of really, I kind of circle the should statement in the sentence. So if the sentence was, I should have more empathy for other people, I should never dislike other people, I kind of say, could we take that should statement out? It's very blamey, it's very scolding, and can we replace it with some language that shows that you really value this, that you care about it, but you're not, let's say, being so hard on yourself. Does that sound right, David? Do you have a different way of teaching that?
It's a very humble, simple technique, but it can change your life if you really take it to heart. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, no. So should we practice doing that then, or how do you want to do that?
And let's practice with externalization of voices to give it more punch.
Great. Do you want to be the therapist or the patient?
Well, I'll be the negative thoughts.
Okay.
And you can be the positive thoughts.
Sounds good.
And so in externalization of voices, one of you can do this with a therapist, you can do this with a friend, you can actually just do it on a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on the left you put the negative self, and the right you can put the positive self. But in this case, we're going to do a role play, and I'm going to be the negative self, and you, Jill, can be the positive self, and then I'm going to verbalize this negative thought that this woman is asking for help with, and I'll be the self-critical self, and Jill, you be the self-loving self. Mm-hmm. And I'll take these three should statements one at a time.
Okay.
And let's call her Helen, because I can't remember what her name is.
But just, someone said they think her name was Jenny. Does that sound right?
Jenny, yeah, that sounds right. Jenny.
And if we're wrong, we apologize, because actually we loved your email so much that we're spending 2 Facebook Lives on it. So we apologize if we have the name wrong.
If we have a Jenny here.
But we'll be better prepared next time someone asks a question to actually credit you with the right name.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Rob Wiley and our ensign, this is so weird, theoretically scary, therapeutically scary, and yes, it is.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think he said because it's like before that his comment was like worrying is equals love,
Yes. Same
which is
deal.
exactly what we're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a really nice, positive, beautiful aspect
Yeah.
to it.
Right. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so David, I'll be Jenny, right?
Okay. Could I talk
Okay.
to you for a minute, Jenny?
Sure.
Is it true that you often judge people who make racist, sexist, or gay bashing comments?
It is true. I feel sometimes really frustrated with people who make racist comments and sexist comments, and I do look down on them, and then I kind of look down on myself for looking down on them, and I feel
Yeah.
really guilty and really
Yeah.
crappy.
Well, you should feel guilty because you should not judge people who make racist, sexist, or gay bashing comments. You should just love them to death.
Well, um, you know, it's true. We've talked about that. Kind of beating up on myself for judging others is something that feels on some level important to me because I really don't want to be a really mean and judgmental person. I want to be sort of open-hearted and kind, but at the same time, David, people are different, and I
No,
have
my
to
name,
admit.
remember, is Jenny.
Oh, Jenny,
Yeah, I'm
right,
the
Jenny.
negative Jenny.
Right, Jenny, I have to admit that I feel kind of frustrated with people and upset with people who make those comments. And I think it's okay sometimes to hold people who are more loving and kind of higher regard. I think it's okay to, it's not like I have to be 100% free of judgment all the time.
Okay, who won, would you say?
I would say me, but I wasn't super slick in my response. It was kind of wordy.
Okay, let's try a role reversal, see if we can improve it a bit. And one
Sounds
of
good.
the principles in externalization of voices, it's a powerful technique, and you can see exactly when it's working a little bit, when it's not working at all, or when it's working tremendously. And if you keep humble with your client and say, can we do role reversals until we hit the ball out of the park, then you're not under so much performance pressure. But I
What,
thought it
David,
was,
one thing I was going to say, though, that's hard. Maybe the audience feels this too, is this is a tough one because it's a should about a should, right? Like in my head, I get a little confused because we're talking about really, I want to be less self-blaming about the fact that I am judging other people, right?
yeah. So you be the negative.
Okay.
You be the negative.
Yes. Okay. So Jenny, remember you're going to be the positive Jenny and I'm going to be the negative Jenny.
Yeah.
So Jenny, you should not judge other people who make racist, sexist, or gay bashing comments. You just should not be judgmental of them.
Oh, I totally agree. Being judgmental never furthers my cause. It just alienates people and makes them fight against me, and it's pretty disrespectful. I prefer not to judge them as human beings, but at the same time, I think it's okay to judge their actions, and because I think that racist, sexist, and gay bashing comments are pretty cruel and in a way unacceptable. But I think in my crusade to spread more love in the world, I do better not to be judging others, as, quite so harshly, because then I'm involved in the same game that they're involved in, is judging human beings, and I don't know how to judge human beings. So I have to plead guilty as accused. Sometimes I do get a little judgmental, and I accept that.
That was great. So, well, let me ask you then, who won that? You?
Well, we have to ask you because you're theoretically the patient.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I love that. I thought that was a big win. I really like that.
Yeah, and it was just the semantic technique here, just changing the language, so I'm not dumping it on myself so hard. And let's try the next one. Go
David,
ahead.
I think I just want to make one other comment, though. I actually think it was really a beautiful, I think it was more than the semantic. I think I might be wrong here, but for me, it felt also kind of like be specific.
Oh
It
yeah,
was, you really, to me, what actually struck home that I thought was best about your response is when you said, what I want to avoid is judging people as a whole. Like, this is a worthless human being. This is a
yeah,
bad human being, because then I'm no better than the person who's gay bashing. But
yeah.
what I can do is say I don't like this action. I don't like this article they wrote, so that was be specific, right? I think kind of
Absolutely.
directed
I
toward
love it. Oh,
another.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
why I
love
like
that.
working
That was
with you,
great.
Jill, because you have so many beautiful insights, and there's so many different ways to look at these things. This is one of the reasons I love this whole approach, because it's like a rich tapestry with many colors and dimensions to it. Let's try the second should statement this Jenny had directed against herself, and you be the positive Jenny, I'll be the negative. You know, Jenny, don't you think that you should try to have more empathy for gay bashers
I would love
and
to
people who
have.
make sexist comments?
I truly actually that is something I aspire to do, to have more empathy toward people, kind of regardless. And I'm working on that. And actually, I think even being a little ticked off at myself or a little upset with myself is getting me to up my empathy game.
Who won?
I think I did.
Big or small?
I think big.
Big or huge?
It felt huge to me, but I don't know. Maybe there
No,
was
I thought it
another
was
way
huge.
at it.
Yeah, I thought it was huge. And again, it was just the semantic technique, getting the should out of there.
Yep,
You
just
don't have
saying
to
I
go.
would like to, or
Yeah,
that would be great if, or
yeah, I can aspire to have greater empathy all of my life, and if I can develop empathy for the people who irritate me the most, that would be a tremendous high level accomplishment,
yeah,
something to work for. So you keep the goal of increasing
hmm
your empathy without beating up on yourself.
exactly.
Let's try the third one was the one I liked the most, actually.
Okay.
I think we'd have the most fun with. You know, Jenny, you should not dislike, people who go around with white supremacist, racist, sexist, and gay bashing points of view. You should not dislike them.
I
You
think I'm
should
going to
feel
go.
warm and loving toward them.
Right. I think I'm going to go with a similar response that I came up with for the first one, or that you came up with for the first one, which is to say, you know what? I have to imagine that human beings are made up of a lot of different, actions and feelings and ways of being. And I don't want to dislike or write off a human being for an action that they take. At the same time, I actually want to hang on to my dislike for these actions, right? I mean, that's actually what motivates me to do good in the world, and to say what I think is right, and to speak my mind, which I think is really important. So I would say no, thank you. I don't want to give up my dislike of these actions, but sure, I would love to be able to see people as more than just an action that they take.
That's a good one. Try a role reversal.
Okay, great.
I
So
gave you big but not huge on that.
okay,
But it might
awesome.
have been huge.
Well, let you give it a shot. So
Okay.
David, sorry, Jenny,
Yeah.
Jenny, you should not dislike these people who are white supremacists or gay bashers. You should
You know,
welcome them.
I just like lots of people and plan to continue doing that for the rest of my life. There are people I love to hang out with, like the wonderful Jill Levitt, and there's some people I don't care to hang out with, and these white supremacist, gay bashing, violent, hateful types are not my favorites, and I plead guilty as accused on that. At the same time, I do want to keep in mind that I don't want to write them off or judge them. So when I do interact with them, I can try to do my best to show some empathy, try to understand their point of view. There's actually a fellow on television who does that really well. He's a black guy, and he goes and hangs out with these white supremacists down south, and Ku Klux Klan types. He tries to understand them, and he actually does a beautiful job of befriending them. It's quite amazing. I can't remember his name, but he's on. I can't remember what channel he's on, some cable channel. It's really cool, and that's what I'd like to aspire to. But that doesn't mean I have to like these people or invite them to my, dinner party on a
Right.
Saturday night. How
And
was that?
oh, wait, so now I'm supposed to say because I'm still Jenny. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was great. I thought that was that was a big win. That was a little more of kind of acceptance, right?
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like. You use the acceptance paradox, which is rather than shoulding myself and saying I should like them or I shouldn't dislike them, I could just say
Yeah.
I don't actually like them, but I don't have to like everybody, and it's
Yeah.
okay to not like them, right? So that's I'm
Exactly.
not really disputing that thought at all, or you're not really disputing that thought at all. We're kind of just saying that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's number one there. Should we get any feedback from
Yeah,
people
let's
or
take a look at what
questions?
people wrote and then we can move on to another one.
Yeah, and we can do the bad mother thing
Sure.
if you're
Um,
still up for it. Yeah.
sure. Oh
Um,
yeah, Lisa told us Jenny Hammond is her name. So thank
oh
you.
yeah,
So
Jenny.
yeah, we're going with Jenny. That's great.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny, for your suggestions about should statements. Yeah, you gave us a lot, Jenny.
Yeah. So yeah, I think people were mostly commenting on what we were doing, which is actually excellent. I'm so happy to see people
Yeah.
are engaged and catching what we're doing. The semantic technique. Mike Christensen is on, and he
Mike
an
is with us.
awesome teacher and trainer. So he's also kind of describing what the semantic technique is here.
Oh, is there something to
Yeah,
read?
yeah. So semantic technique, change the word should in a negative thought into something like I would like to, or I would prefer to, or this is an area that I'm growing in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't.
I also like Raul wrote, we should judge the wrong actions without judging the total value of people, especially those of which they have no control.
Yeah.
Right. The only thing I'd say to Raul is that you have a should statement in your in your comment, which is that we should judge the wrong actions without judging the total value. And we might like to describe that more aspirationally, like we would like to judge the wrong actions without judging the total value, right?
Yes. Yeah, beautiful. And there was something else somebody said, but I can't find it now. Oh well.
Someone wrote, Jill and David, would musts and have to statements be in the same category as should statements?
Yes,
And our answer is yes, absolutely. Yep.
Rob De Gregorio says externalization of voices is one of my favorites. It's my favorite too, Rob. So let's talk about Jill here. You told me that you had some should statements. I should never yell at my children. Right. I should never lose my patience. I should try to be a perfect mother. I should never snap at my children. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it feels, I will be honest and say it feels less present for me now, but there was a time actually, I know like a couple of years ago even, and I can definitely role play this because of course this comes into my mind from time to time, but a couple of years ago, I remember telling you, David, that I was, one of my older son was going through a really difficult phase and I felt really impatient with him. And I was telling myself I should be more patient and I should kind of always respond to him with kindness and love. And I should never snap at my children. Right. And yeah. And that's obviously that's really painful because parenting is challenging and we have good days and bad days and we're, doing the best we can. And so I remember saying I felt I would feel guilty. Right. And upset if I ever kind of snapped at my kids or was impatient with them.
Now, when I worked with you, Jill, years ago, that was what and we didn't do the positive reframing.
Right.
And we hit the ball out of the park, but you kind of felt disappointed that we didn't. So why don't we not make that mistake today and ask our listeners now to do positive reframing before we try to take away Jill's should statements. And by the way, whenever Jill talks about her screw-ups, which is rare, unfortunately, but whenever you do, it's always a gift to me and to the group, because when we look at Jill, you really seem, a level above, me, and I think a lot of people feel that way, that your compassion is so fantastic. But all of us, it just shows us that we all are a little bit flawed. Some of us maybe more
Totally.
flawed than others, but
We're all a little screwed up, right?
yeah, that's right. But anyway, what do Jill's should statements say about her that's positive and awesome? And what are some advantages to Jill in saying, I should never lose my patience. I should never yell at my kids. I should be a better mother. I should never snap at my children. Because if we press the magic button, all those negative thoughts and feelings will instantly disappear. Is that something that Jill would want to do? So Rob says he should be taking notes. Well,
I should be taking better notes. That's his should statement.
I should be taking notes. Raquel says beautifully here that there should show that she is a good mother who loves her kids and wants to do a good job. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sean says, laughing out loud, love Dave's honesty. Thank you. Yes, honesty is such a relief for us when we think we're supposed to be so perfect. Bernie says it shows that she's very alert to being a loving, supportive mother. That's a beautiful thing. Let's see if there's anything else here.
Tracy said this should show Jill cares about her children and wants to be the best mother that she can be.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're all in that same that ballpark, right? Wants to parent well, wants to be the best mother, that kind of thing.
Wants to be a loving, supportive mother. Absolutely. And so given that, then Jill, maybe you wouldn't want to, if you press the magic button, all these shoulds will disappear. Maybe that's not such a good idea.
Yeah. So I think it is a good idea. I don't think that telling myself how I should be is actually very useful to me, because then I just feel badly and guilty and all sorts of negative emotions, which doesn't actually sort of translate into good parenting. I think it would make more sense for me to be thoughtful about how I want to be, maybe even sometimes to plan or to think about ways of making self-improvements, because I do value always, sort of improving and being thoughtful and self-reflective. But I don't think that I need to make myself feel awful in order to do that.
But when you get irritated with your kids, according to Sean here, it shows you have high standards for your kids.
When I get irritated with my kids. Well, wait, I didn't say I wanted to get, let's see, am I working on getting less irritated with my kids, or is I working
on? Another dimension of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another shade of it.
Sure. We could say that, when I get irritated with my kids, it shows that I have high values for my kids. I think that's definitely true. I mean, that's a good pickup for sure.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and then we could say the same thing for that one, though, which I think is a different dimension. But if I were trying to work on that, I would say, right, but like I could have high standards for my children and, guide them or coach them or, discuss with them without berating them, if that were what I was doing, right? If I were trying to work on snapping less at them or something.
Yeah, sure.
But I do want to make the point, it can be confusing because as the patient in this role play, I wasn't actually asking for help in trying to be less, to snap at my children less. Actually, I was asking for the opposite sort of help. I was asking for the help of stop telling myself I should snap at my children less, which is kind of the opposite, right? Do you know what I mean, David?
Let's see.
No.
It sounds good. I think when you're saying I should never yell at my children, should never snap at my children. You're.
And then I'm asking for help in not telling myself I should never snap at my children. I'm not asking for help in snapping less at my children. That's actually kind of the opposite. I want to snap at my kids and be proud of it, right?
Yep. Yeah. Right. Okay. So let's see how we're going to do this. So what's your name?
My name is Jill.
And what's my name?
And your name is Jill.
Okay. Could I talk to you for a minute, Jill?
Yes.
I've heard through the grapevine that you sometimes kind of snap at your children, yell at them, and lose patience. Is this true?
That is true. I sometimes do lose patience with my
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to tell you that you should never snap at your children.
Yeah. Let's see. So, I was going to say maybe in an ideal world that's true, but I don't even think that's true. I actually think that I think I do a really good job with my kids, and I think that sometimes snapping at them from time to time is actually okay. I think sometimes I need to be a little bit, show a little bit of frustration or anger, and sometimes talking about it kindly even isn't the best. I need to kind of, express my feelings openly from time to time. I certainly like to be thoughtful about the way that I parent and be loving with my kids, but I think actually, trying to be the perfect mother is a big waste of time.
Great. Who won?
I think I did.
Big or small?
I think it was big.
Big or huge?
I think it was huge.
Yeah, I thought it was huge too. And why was it huge?
I think there was a lot of self-acceptance in it. I think I kind of said that's bullshit. Like, it's okay if I were snapping at them, all day, every day. Maybe I would have had a different response, and a different response would have been appropriate. But I think I'm saying here, like, kind of, I want to just accept myself and know that sometimes I do get frustrated or irritated, and really, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I think I got to that. Like, it's not my goal to be the perfect mother.
Yeah. Yeah, Raquel, amen to that.
Yeah.
No such thing as a perfect mother.
Yeah.
And then Sean was saying we could also try the double standard technique, and that's a good one. The externalization of voices is a tad more powerful, but
I just thought of another one, David. Can I say one more thing in response?
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling on a roll here. So how about also saying, like, in a way, when I do snap at my kids, I generally then kind of talk to them about it and apologize, sort of talk through the situation after. I think I do it. I think it works well in sort of modeling imperfection and modeling sort of losing your cool with someone, coming back, making repairs. I think that's probably a lot better than sort of walking around as some like perfectly emotionally regulated parent, actually.
Yeah, I just love what you're saying. And we're talking here about how we care for ourselves, and whether we're going to beat up on ourselves with should statements and keep trying to be perfect, or whether we're going to accept ourselves as flawed human beings. And there's a powerful struggle inside of us. We don't want to accept ourselves as flawed, because we think, if we beat up on ourselves enough and work at it enough, we're going to achieve some change, some perfection, some higher status, and enlightenment. Sometimes you have to go in the opposite direction, and enlightenment doesn't have anything to do with being perfect, or achieving perfection. At least our humble view of enlightenment is you kind of just accept your second-rate nature, the fact that you're flawed, that you're human, that you screw up, and then that's when the magic occurs. There is something magical about enlightenment.
All of a sudden I felt kind of lighter and like, kind of happy and excited, thinking about that's actually maybe even, good from time to time to mess up, and then to apologize, and then to talk about it, and to sort of model that way of being.
To use our failures as an opportunity to develop more loving relationships. Let the ego die. Well, should we try some other directed should statements, Jill?
Sure. Yeah. Which should we try? We have a list of them too, right?
Well, we'll just get people warmed up, and maybe if you've got, Sean says one of those Buddhist deaths, Dave. Yes, it's one of the Buddhist deaths. There's 4 Buddhist deaths, although the Buddha was only aware of one of them. But there are 4 deaths, and this is one of the 4. For sure.
I got some Amen sisters in there, which I liked.
Oh yeah,
like there are a lot of comments being like, "Yes, love the acceptance, Amen." So that's fun.
Lisa, I love being flawed and average. Sometimes I wish I was average. People seem to like this. Raquel, love, yes, and loving yourself is a good place to start. That's a new idea that we might be able to get some mileage off of, because I don't think anyone's ever talked about self-love before.
Right. Right, right.
The yeah, yeah. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about other directed shoulds.
Yeah.
And this one is arguably even tougher to let go of. When you start shooting on someone else, you get angry, you feel morally superior, you feel ticked off, you want to get back at them. You blame them. You feel like you're an innocent victim, and that they're bad, and that you're good. For example, that driver shouldn't cut in front of me in line, and or when I'm in a hurry, or shouldn't cut in front of me, and that kind of thought can trigger road rage, and then you flip the guy a bird or the woman a bird or whatever, and then they get ticked off, and pretty soon, bad exchanges happen, and often culminate in violence. And then other directed shoulds. People should be more tolerant. People shouldn't be so stupid. People shouldn't support this or that political candidate. They should see what a loser she or he is. So they should see how stupid this candidate is, and what stupid ideas he or she is supporting. So-and-so shouldn't complain all the time. Most of us have some friend who's constantly complaining, and you try to cheer them up, and then they keep complaining and tell you that won't work and that won't work. In fact, we worked on that problem on the hike today from a variety of perspectives. My patient should do his psychotherapy homework. That's one that a lot of therapists have. My patient shouldn't be so resistant, so oppositional, so irrational, or my friend shouldn't be, or my family member shouldn't be.
Or my husband should be more helpful. I hear that a lot from people and from patients, or my wife should be more helpful, or should be this way or that way.
Yeah, or my husband or wife or partner or friend shouldn't be so critical, shouldn't be so stubborn, shouldn't be so demanding. So let's see
Sean
if we got any.
Sean wrote, people should always agree with my logic or reasoning.
Yeah, right, that's a good one. Right. And Ron Funk says, check out Dr. Burns' book, Intimate Connections. I'm not sure.
Someone else had written in the chat box something about her social anxiety, looking for a resource. So it would derail us at this point, but yeah, that's a great answer.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Life should be just as I want it to be, right?
Yeah, right. So
what about anyone else? Basically, we're inviting you to add any other directed should statements to the chat box. So we can wait a minute if we want to see if other people, so if anyone gets frustrated or irritated with other people and has other directed should statements, you can type them in the chat box.
I'm having one right now. People should type should statements into the chat box. Well, we can
practice with any of the ones that we have, David. We have great examples, and if we want to do another one.
Which ones? Do you have a favorite one there?
We do have a few that came up, right? You should know what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Right, I love this one.
If you love me, you'd know how I'm thinking and what I want and how I feel. Yeah.
Right. I love this one. Sean wrote, my priorities are rational, and therefore everyone should agree with my priorities and act accordingly.
That's a good one. Rob says people should not be rude.
Right.
When I had I did a session with a guy who got angry in movie theaters. He would get rage attacks when people are talking, and people shouldn't talk in movie theaters. Yeah. Well, should we talk about what doesn't work before we talk about what does work?
Sure. You mean in treatment?
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the techniques for should statement was developed by Albert Ellis, and his idea was, examine the evidence. Like if you'd say people should not be rude, like Rob's thought, he would say, where is it written that people shouldn't be rude? And he would say that in a kind of indignant way. And now I don't mean to put down Ellis. I loved Ellis, but he was a real wild guy, and he had this confrontational way of doing therapy. and he was trying to get people to see that, like when you say people shouldn't be rude, he would say, well, where is it written? He was trying to point out that when you make this statement, it's incredibly grandiose. Like the universe should conform to your expectations. His idea, and it was a basically good idea, it just doesn't help people very much. But it's like saying cats should not enjoy torturing and capturing and torturing and killing mice.
Mm-hmm.
Because we find it gross. But
right.
but why shouldn't they? I mean, that's their nature. It's evolved for millions of years.
Right.
And human being nature is to be rude at times.
Right.
And almost all of us are rude sometimes. We like to deny it. We like to look at other people's rudeness. We don't like to look at our own. But I'm rude often, and sometimes I'm intentionally rude and proud of my rudeness, to be blunt about it. And the idea that people shouldn't be rude is kind of irrational, and it's as if you're the center of the universe. That was Ellis's point. Mm-hmm. Should we say anything more about that?
You were going to say something though, David, about what doesn't work. I was wondering.
Well, that's the thing that doesn't work, because in my experience, for some people that will work, but for some people it just sounds like now Ellis is shooting on them.
Right, exactly. Like you shouldn't have other statements
because your shoulds are all irrational.
Right, I see what you're saying. Right,
you shouldn't think that way. I see what you're saying. And while he had a fantastic vision from a philosophical point of view, and he was right, mm-hmm. it's kind of intimidating. Dominic says Ellis, confrontational, sounds like my kind of guy. Well, a lot of people.
He's David's kind of guy too, right?
Yeah, I loved him.
Yes.
Like he used to give these free demos in New York, and I won't wander too long here, but this is a good story. And he would do a live demonstration. They'd probably pay $5, and there's probably 100 people there watching him work on stage, and people loved him because he always did the things everyone else wanted to do but was afraid of doing.
Right.
And he once had this guy up on stage who was just whining and complaining and yes-butting him. And finally he shouted at the guy and said, "Get off my effing stage, you effing whiner." And the guy got off the stage. It's kind of therapeutically horrible, but it's kind of a thought that a lot of therapists...
real, I guess.
Being real. That was Albert Ellis.
Wow.
But that,
so David, I'm thinking we could take one of these other directed shoulds and maybe do a quick, positive reframing, and then move into a method like we did with the self-directed should. Does that make sense?
Yes. Let's read Bernie's statement, and then we'll do that.
Okay.
Rob says, "Wow, awesome example." Oh my gosh, this is jumping around. Yes. People are rude by nature. Yeah, see, Rob gets it. Rob is very flexible and open, but a lot of people can't get it. But Bernie Berlicki, Albert Ellis would also say, "Where is the law that says blah blah blah?"
Right.
And so forth. But yeah. Yep. So okay, which one do you want to work on? People.
Why don't you be the patient? I'll start by being the negative, and you'll respond. So you pick one that you like.
Well,
that sound okay?
How about my one that I sent out to the group this week? Therapists shouldn't be so codependent.
Okay, let's do it. So your thought is therapists shouldn't be so codependent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I get kind of annoyed when I have that thought.
Right.
That this is the cause of all therapeutic failure. And the thought makes me feel kind of morally superior.
Right. So we were going to start. So David saying your other directed should is you're thinking therapists shouldn't be so codependent, right?
Yeah, they should learn
be able to hold their patients accountable, and not push their patients to change, and sit with open hands. And so that's your thought. And then what we want to ask you first, then, David, right, is what does this thought, and we want the audience to type this in too. What does this thought show about you that's really positive or awesome? How does it show something really wonderful about you, and maybe even how is it kind of working for you? How does it benefit you?
Yeah. You want me to do it? Let the audience do it first. Make it an
Let's see.
exercise for
Give the
them.
audience an opportunity. Yeah. So you want to think about when David thinks therapists shouldn't be so codependent. What does it show about David that's really awesome?
And at the first point, we have to say this is a problem David has brought up,
Right.
because it can make him kind of cranky sometimes, and
Right.
therapists feel put down, and it can be a
Right.
problem in teaching to be real negative with people. They get hurt
Right.
and defensive. So
Yeah. So we have our first one, which is absolutely spot on. So Lael, I don't know how to say that. I think Lale. She said, you take your profession very seriously.
Yeah.
Which is totally true. Is that true about you, David?
Yeah, absolutely.
You take your profession really seriously. And Sean is saying it shows that you have a kick-ass approach for therapy. That and we can add, that you feel really hopeful and optimistic and will help other people. And so you feel kind of frustrated and angry with people when they don't want to learn it.
Yeah. And then Sean Stiller says Dave is rebellious, and I'm Lutheran, so it makes me feel like Martin Luther.
Yeah.
Remember, he pounded something on the door of the Catholic Church, that he broke away from the Catholic Church because it was all about penance rather than forgiveness, or whatever his insight was. Grace, we're saved by grace.
Yeah.
So he was like kind of an angry rebel. So when I think that thought, then I can be like, Martin Luther.
Which is, and we could say that's kind of positive, David, right? Like it feels good to be kind of on a crusade, right?
Yeah.
It shows that you're passionate, that you care really deeply about what you're teaching.
Yeah.
And that's what Bernie wrote. He's passionate about doing good therapy and really helping people. Someone else wrote that you wish to encourage greater effectiveness in others. Shows that David Burns values effective therapy and wants all clients to get the best possible treatment.
Yeah.
Shows that you don't want the therapeutic relationship to be symbiotic.
Yeah. Ron wants to help therapists see their blind spots. I love that. That's a good one.
Dedicated to healing patients.
Profoundly dedicated. Yes, that's beautiful. Dave is rebellious. Yeah, he's passionate. Wants to encourage greater effectiveness. Yeah, right. So, and then this is really kind of like a form of empathy, because these are the reasons that I cling to sometimes these points of view that can be a little off-putting to people.
So, and David, I would say, is it fair to then say to you, so David, given all of these kind of beautiful values that this thought shows about you, right? Why would you want to give it up? Shouldn't you just keep thinking to yourself, therapists shouldn't be so codependent? Why would you want our help in changing this thought?
Well, I have to admit that all that stroking, beautifully feeds my voluptuous narcissism. just make me feel good. But at the same time, then I might say that sometimes, like in my workshop in Whistler, I was just very warm and kindly toward every single person, and I had the highest ratings by far that I've ever had in a workshop. And so if I really want to maximize my effectiveness in teaching, as well as the joy in teaching, maybe this would be something to tone down a little bit, or at least most of the time, while allowing myself to be a pain in the ass every now and then, just to stay well rounded, but try to tone it down a little bit.
I love it. And just so you know, David, lots of people wrote paradoxically, better keep this one, or maybe you shouldn't give up this mindset.
Yeah.
Which is great. Right?
And that's really, you're all doing really good paradoxical agenda setting, because when you say to your patient and you see maybe you shouldn't give this up, that's when the magic occurs. And up until that point, the therapist and patient have had different roles. Once you say that, you have become the patient's subconscious resistance. Once you see that the patient really should not change, that's when the change will occur. It's another paradox.
Totally. And that was so cool, though, David, that you kind of said, but at the same time, it is this anger, this frustration, this kind of high standards toward others is working against me, right? When I'm really open and warm and kindly and accepting of others is really when they're most open to learning what I have to say, which is what I really want in the long run. But and also, I can be kind of pissed off from time to time, too,
Yeah, right. And it's exactly the same with, with the cats.
Yes.
Just
is there warmth. A cat story coming?
Yeah. Well, no. Just in general, just warmth and letting them come to you, and then and then stroking them. That's where the magic comes from. Not you can't tell a cat to say stop chasing the damn mouse.
Right. You should sit on my lap.
Yeah. Exactly. I feel that a lot, little Misty. She only does it when she's in the mood.
Right. Totally. So should we do do we have time for a quick externalization of voices, David?
Oh, sure. It's 3:55. I thought it was 3:35. Yes, we'll do a quick one, and then we have a few announcements. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be I'll hit you with your should statement and have you give a response, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So David, I hear that you've been having this thought. It sounds totally spot on. Therapists shouldn't be so codependent.
Well, I have to point out that the first 7 years of my practice, I was pretty damn codependent, compulsively try to help every patient. And I think that a lot of us go into this profession because of our compassion and the joy in seeing someone change. And so everything has a positive and a negative side. And the negative side is codependency and jumping in to help prematurely. But the positive side is this shows that the therapist has a real love for others and that, so that's showing something really, really beautiful about them too. And maybe I need to emphasize that, use a little sugar and the medicine goes down perhaps a lot more easily.
Great. And who won that, you or me?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty huge.
Yeah, that was a huge win.
Yeah, I thought. What did you think?
Awesome. Yeah, no, I thought it was great too. It was actually just showed a lot of compassion for others, right? It kind of you actually ended up not telling yourself like they actually should be codependent, but rather just kind of having a lot of empathy and understanding for therapists.
Yeah,
it seemed like the should statement kind of melted away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like it makes sense that therapists can be that way. In fact, it shows something beautiful about them.
Yeah, and those who want to change the world, I mean, there is a point for fire, but there's also a point for warmth rather than burning people alive. Well, a couple of announcements here before we go. Well, one, and I don't even have the announcement. There's still a few slots left at the intensive, which starts a week from tomorrow, the South San Francisco intensive. And so if you're interested, it's usually a wonderful workshop. Jill and I are going to do a live demo the first night. And my friend Mike Manner is going to fly out from Wisconsin just to film the live demo with his fantastic new ultra high definition camera. So, and Rob, who's with us today, might volunteer to be our patient, and which would be cool. But with an issue that I think a lot of us can identify with. And so the best way to do it, since I don't have that 800 number and stuff.
David, Lisa actually posted it in the comments. So it's August 6th through 9th in South San Francisco. And Lisa posted, go to www.iahb. Is it .org, Lisa?
.org, iahb.org.
Okay.
And so also, I found the thing here. It's the 800 number is 800-258-8411. Okay. The second announcement is that we're going to take about a month off from the Facebook show for a little summer break, and also because I'm closing in on my new book, Feeling Great. I've gotten tremendous feedback from people, and I'm making a lot of changes to upgrade it. And so I really want to kind of pour myself into that.
Absolutely.
And then I think for for the winter do the Facebook shows once a month rather than once a week, and then we'll reevaluate that, and we can always go back to a more frequent schedule if people want that. So send us ideas for the Facebook show that's coming up. And did you mention it's going to be September 9th, Jill?
That sounds right. Yeah. So we don't want to do it the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. So we'll do it the following Sunday.
But in general, it'll be the first Sunday of every month when we'll do our Facebook show. But we'll make an exception for Labor Day weekend because a lot of people will be unavailable.
And we really encourage people. It's really fun. I thought this was a really fun last 2 sessions because Jenny sent in this great question with lots of details about her negative thoughts and things like that. So if people want to see us covering material that's important to you, please send David an email. And the more specific you are, the better, the patient's thoughts, your thoughts, things like that. And we can craft our future agendas around your wishes.
And Rob, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but Rob said, would you try that positive reframing with a panic attack? Rob, absolutely. I was going to reveal this next Monday at the intensive because I didn't want to cure you too fast. But yes, your panic and fear of being alone shows your beautiful love for your mother, Rob, and it's a beautiful thing. And we may cry about that a little bit together a week from Monday night. Panic attacks and unable to sleep. You're a beautiful person, Rob, and it's your anxiety and panic and insomnia is a direct manifestation of what a fantastic human being you are.
And lots of times, David, I don't know, Rob, but generally speaking, when people are having panic attacks, a lot of times they're really kind of hypervigilant to their body. And what it shows about them is that they're kind of self-protective and they're trying to be safe and to be careful and to be cautious. And those can be positive attributes too.
Yeah.
Right?
So I protect myself, can function well, and more. And we'll get into all of that a week from Monday. But we're probably also going to do some cognitive flooding and some other really, hopefully helpful and maybe even amazing things. So.
And I would say the only promotion I wanted to add, I think Mike put it here, but if you are interested in further training with myself or any of my excellent colleagues like Mike Christensen or others at Feeling Good Institute, you can go to feelinggoodinstitute.com/training. And there's lots of options there. You can join us online for trainings. David and I are doing a bunch of one-day workshops this year that we're going to live stream as well for continuing education credit for therapists. And so there's lots of options, and that's all on the feelinggoodinstitute.com/training website.
Are people like Mike Christensen and Jill Levitt available for treatment if people are watching and want to get straightened out?
Absolutely. So I think Mike put my email address there if you're interested in referring patients. It's Jill Levitt at feelinggoodinstitute.com. But Mike, you should also put your email address as well. Mike is a fabulous therapist and trainer. Yeah,
if you're in Canada, Mike can treat you anywhere you are through telemedicine now. So that's another fantastic option. Or if you want training in the United States or Canada, both Jill and Mike have online training classes and do individual mentoring and supervision too. And they're both like about the best teachers, psychotherapy teachers on planet Earth.
Thank you. We should say thank you to the audience. Was really fun today. Lots of interaction, lots of great ideas, right?
Really, I thought so.
Very involved and totally spot on with their comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Well, shall we count to 3 and say goodbye?
Sounds good.
I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and your eyes will open and you will awaken, and you will not remember any of this, but you'll feel wonderful. Here we go. 1, your eyes are opening. 2, your eyes are opening. 3, you're awake, and you're going to have a wonderful evening.
Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.